That's a picture of a cake, by the way. Always have a cake at our meet and greet. And somebody does a nice job of decorating. Anyway, here we go. You ready? In 2004, a man named Earl Morphs, a physician assistant and retired Air Force captain, worked in a Veterans Affairs clinic in Springfield, Ohio. He saw many patients who were World War II veterans. After the World War II Memorial in Washington was completed in 2004, he asked many of his veteran patients if they were going to go see it, and many of them said, well, yeah. Months later, he asked them if they had seen it, and they all said no. Reality set in. They were never going. So he offered to fly a couple of veterans to Washington to see the memorial. After seeing them break down and literally cry at the offer, he pitched the idea to a local aero club of some 300 pilots at a local Air Force base, proposing that the pilots pay for the flights for the veterans and personally escort them around the monuments. 11 of them volunteered. So the first honor flight took place in May of 2005 when 6 small planes flew 12 veterans to Washington. Realizing the potential, a board was formed, funds were raised, and the volunteers started flowing in. The Honor Flight Network is an umbrella organization that is sprung from this Springfield, Ohio group and serves to provide guidelines. And today there's about 100 chapters. So the focus is on World War II veterans as we still go with that. The beginning back in World War I, a small banner with a blue star signifying a son or a daughter in service was proudly displayed in the windows nationwide. It was all too often replaced by a gold star signifying another casualty of war. The gold star remains a symbol of a family's loss in all subsequent wars. Pam Ma, on the right, whose son was killed in the Middle East War, became the state president of Indiana Gold Star Mothers in April of 2011, and she's still the state president. She decided to see what kind of service projects other state departments of Gold Star Mothers were doing. She emailed a bunch of friends, and finally she found out about the Honor Flight Network. She thought it was a fantastic program, and she talked it over with other Gold Star Mothers in this area, including Dana Van on the left. They decided it would be a wonderful tribute to their sons. They decided to talk with Mayor Tony Rosworski about the project, get his opinion. He agreed to be the co-president with Pam, and the first meeting in October of 2011 was the beginning of the Greater Lafayette Honor Flight, a nonprofit organization created solely to honor American veterans for all their services. The first flight was in April of 2012, and the rest is history. You remember that one because you were on that one. Our first flight, let's see, the mission was to fly as many World War II veterans as they can to see the memorials as fast as we can. The memorial was dedicated in 2004, 60 years after the war ended. Today we're including Vietnam or Korean War veterans and Vietnam veterans who may be terminally ill. So last year Pam and Dana attended a meeting at that network meeting in Ohio, and they learned that our program is held as an example to all of the others as one of the best run programs in the country, and that's a source of pride you can't begin to imagine for us. So let's take a look at what we do. Over the 3 years of this program, all of our flights have occurred on Mondays, and Mondays seem to work out better because for some reason or other, we're the only program there on Mondays. And Mondays seem to be, they don't seem to work well for all the other. I think only 2 of our honor flights where we actually had to share space on those flights, on those areas on there with another honor flight from other countries. On the Sunday preceding an honor flight, we gather all the veterans and the guardians and the families together for a meet and greet. Here the vets meet their veterans, meet their guardians, and some of the veterans have family members doing this, and they receive their T-shirts, they provide snacks, we have some entertainment. There's the snacks. There's the cake down there, by the way, at the end of the table that we saw on the over side there. And we give them some entertainment and some good times and instructions over there. We treated the speeches from the politicians, of course. We usually have our mayors, and of course Sheila shows up everywhere. Ron Alting has been there, and among others. We always tell them they got 5 minutes, and then we just keep our fingers crossed. We present a demonstration of a flag folding ceremony, and then we end up the session with a group saying, "God Bless America." Monday morning, 6 a.m., the vets and their guardians arrive at Purdue Airport. They receive their name tags, and they're escorted into the big hangar there for breakfast, which is donated by local restaurants. We have Triple X and Route 66 people have been great sponsors of our programs and everything else. And we have a good time. There's Billy. Billy went on one of the flights this year. Where is Billy?
In Florida.
He's in Florida.
Well, bless his heart.
Smart man.
And then we have a pep band for Purdue. This is the band that plays for the men's basketball games, and they come and they play the service songs, and then of course they always get the chance to play Hail Purdue for us as well. And there's some fun to be had at the same time. And then it's time to head for the aircraft. We get their picture taken and a quick passage through security and onto the plane. We usually have a group of ROTC students that come in to help serve the breakfast and provide the honor line there. The people getting on the planes. There's Bill Pritchett. They're loading the plane this year. And Ted Reeser has been with us. And an hour and 15-minute flight, and we head for Ronald Reagan Airport. A traditional welcome salute from the airport fire department. And as we prepare this is something that we received at every single one of our honor flights. And every honor flight that goes into Washington, D.C. or into Baltimore Airport gets this salute from the airport fire departments. It's a traditional salute. And it's pretty neat. Of course, when you're looking at it from inside the airplane, all you see is water running down the window. So. We don't tell them what kind of a reception there's going to be, but when the airport makes an announcement that there's an honor flight on the way, that it's a certain amount of time out there, it'll be there like in 15 or 20 minutes or whatever, the people start to gather. And the people start to gather. And it's amazing, you might see 300 or 400 people in that airport terminal and to greet us. And usually someone from the Pentagon comes down there to greet people. This 4-star general, he was a cool guy, I'll tell you what. This 4-star general in full dress blues shook hands with everybody that got off of that plane that day. And then of course there's always some entertainment. There was this brass band we had this year. They just knew that somebody was coming from Indiana. And that's all they knew. They knew Indiana. So they played back home again in Indiana. They played the Notre Dame fight song, and then when I heard them play the Indiana University fight song, and that was it, I figured, well, you know, that's the way it goes. So there are lots of hugs and everything. Everybody gets, there's always some lady that will give everybody a hug that gets off the plane. And then there's a gauntlet of cheering people, people cheering and thanking them for their service, waving American flags, and just having a great time. And here's Russ Hart with his son that went with him. Russ Hart was on one of these flights this year. And more hugs, and going down through the gauntlet. You see the T-shirts, the blue T-shirts on the veterans, and the red T-shirts are on the Guardians. And it makes it easy to spot who's who and everything else. The people on the staff wore white, like I'm wearing. Onto the buses, and we head off to the World War II Memorial. The groundbreaking for the World War II, this is an interesting factoid. Some of you probably didn't aware of this. The groundbreaking for the World War II Memorial took place on the same month of September as the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center. And the memorial was opened to the public in 2004. There are 15 granite pillars in a semicircle around the plaza with arches on opposite sides. The arches are named, one of them named for the Pacific Theater and one for the Atlantic Theater on the north. Each pillar is named for a state, one of the 48 states of 1945, and as well as the District of Columbia and a bunch of the territories. It's a favorite spot for pictures. Now, you may recognize a few people there. There's Buck Hudgens down there in the wheelchair, and then there's me in the background. I don't know who this is in the front, but then there's Jeff Love and Sam. This was the very first flight, and then I'll tell you what, I spent a lot of time twisting his arm trying to get him to fill out an application, and I can't be more happy to say that I got him on one of these flights before it was too late. Because I knew he was hurting, and I knew that it might not be another chance for him.
Colonel Blood.
Now, we have our sweetheart of the honor flight right there. She's been on what, 5 of them, 6?
3.
3?
Almost 4.
Almost 4. You got one coming up. She's one of our great, Laura is one of our great supporters and everything else, and she tries to get on as many of these flights as she can get away for, and whatnot. That day on our first flight, we were walking around, Jeff Love and I, and Buck, and Sam, and Sam encountered a group of school children.
Always encounters a group of women.
A bunch of school children, middle school children, somewhere from California, and somehow or other he managed to let out the information that that day was his birthday. He was 94 years old that day, and nothing would do but those kids had to gather around him and sing happy birthday, and it was a special moment, believe me. You probably noticed that it started to get emotional.
Yep.
The whole place is fraught with engravings from famous speeches of prominent people of the time. And I'll tell you what, it's not where you know where it is, it's hidden. You got to know where it is, but no World War II memorial would be complete without it. It's there, but you got to know where it is. It's around and back. You got to go outside the memorial and go around into the stairway that goes down into the pump room that runs all the fountains and everything. There it is, engraved on the wall in there. It's there. It had to be there. I spend almost every time I go on these trips, and I've been all of them, I usually grab a couple of World War II veterans and take them back there so they can see it for themselves. The engraving says, "Here marks the price of freedom." You remember I was talking about the gold star a little while ago. The Freedom Wall on the west side of the memorial has 4,048 gold stars. Each star represents 100 Americans that died during World War II. We're looking at 400,000 Americans that died. And it can be a place for much contemplation. And of course, no tour of its kind would be complete without the obligatory group photo. And next is on to the Korean War Veterans Memorial. The 19 stainless steel statues which depict soldiers on patrol. The statues are larger than life. They weigh 1,000 pounds each. And they represent the different services. And on the wall, you can see the reflection of them, but you can also see the engravings in the wall. There were sandblasted in there. There are from actual photos of actual servicemen that were shot during the conflict over there. There have been cases where veterans have come to watch and look over that wall and have spotted people they knew. And there's one recorded instance where a veteran came and saw himself on that wall. And we get the Korean War veterans together. And of course, each flight we have more Korean War veterans than we have World War II veterans, and it's getting to be an interesting problem. Our next visit, of course, is the Vietnam Wall, and it's a remarkable place to look at. And this is something that you see a lot. There are people etching a name on the wall. You can find a name. They have a catalog right there by the wall where you can look up a name. If you have a name of somebody, family member or somebody, you can find out exactly where it is on that wall, because the walls are all numbered, and it tells you what number the wall is and how far down on it is. And then part of this memorial is the 3 soldiers. It's located a short distance from the wall. And they're placed so that they seem to interact with the wall, because they're standing there and they're looking back over their shoulder at the wall itself. They're very poignant. And then there's the Vietnam Women's Memorial, another part of the memorial, which features honoring the women who served, most of them as nurses. The next step is the Marine Corps Memorial. 32-foot sculpture was inspired by the Pulitzer Prize-winning photograph by Joe Rosenthal, dedicated by President Eisenhower in 1954. The memorial is 74 feet high. The rifles are 12 feet and 16 feet long. I mean, it's huge. And this slogan on the side, I'll tell you what, this is probably the most amazing, simple slogan that meant so much about everything that happened during World War II. It's a tribute to a speech by Admiral Chester Nimitz after the Battle of Saipan. Uncommon valor was a common virtue. There's a few of our guys that were there. You see Bill Fall? Where is he? He's not here today. And there's Ted Reeser, and they're standing there with Ace Tyler. A lot of you knew Ace Tyler. And there's Russ Hart. Russ traveled with his son, and another son showed up and at the airport and met them as they got there. And so he had both of his sons to go through the memorials together. It was very special. And then there's Laura again. The Air Force Memorial is one of the newest of the military memorials. Its spires were dedicated in 2006. It's a tough place to photograph because the tallest one is 270 feet up there, and it's straight up, and there's no way to get off to the side. But there are people that have figured out a way to get this picture taken. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to meet my daughter, Mary Kay. Okay, I paired her up with Dick Nelson. A lot of you know Dick. And the two of them went on this flight together with Mary Kay as his guardian. And they had the best time. It was like watching two kids out for recess the whole time they were there. And then the statues of the four service people representing different aspects of the service, the Air Force service. This guy was about 5'4" tall or something, and he led a platoon up Mount Suribachi. And I tell you what, that whole guy was a tough little nutcracker, I'll tell you that. He was something else. But he was, the juxtaposition of no bigger than he was with those statues was a picture you just couldn't avoid. I couldn't pass it up. So back in the buses, and the last stop is at the cemetery, where we will see the sentinels of the 3rd United States Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard. These men commit 2 years of their life to guard the tomb of the unknown soldier. They live in a barracks under the tomb. They cannot drink alcohol on or off duty for the rest of their lives. They cannot swear in public for the rest of their lives. They cannot disgrace the uniform or the tomb in any manner, like fighting or anything, for the rest of their lives. After 2 years, they're given a wreath pin that is worn on the lapel, signifying that he served as guard in the tomb. There are only about 400 of them presently worn. The guard must obey these rules for the rest of his life or give up the pin. Some people think that when the cemetery is closed at night, walking the post stops. To these men, the continuity of this post is the key to honor and respect shown to these honored dead, symbolic of all unaccounted American combat dead. Uninterrupted is the part of the honor shown. When Hurricane Isabel came through this area, thousands of trees were down, power outages, traffic signals out, roads filled with downed limbs, debris flooding. The place looked like it had been an impact of a shore bombardment. The regimental commander of the 3rd Army sent word to the nighttime sentry detail to secure the post and seek shelter. They disobeyed the order. No way, sir. Guarding the tomb is not just an assignment, it's the highest honor that can be afforded a service person. Watching these young men perform is an inspiration. And when they do the walk across the tomb, they take exactly 21 steps. made a Luce to the 21-gun salute, which is the highest honor given by any military or foreign dignitary, after turning to face another direction exactly 21 seconds before stepping off again. And those of you who remember wristwatches with second hands, you can time those and they nail it every time. 21 seconds, they step off. It is just amazing. The guards have changed every 30 minutes, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The tomb has been patrolled continuously since 1930. Finally, the ultimate honor is the opportunity to lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. We've had this honor all but 2 of our flights. We have to schedule these way in advance. It doesn't get any more special than this. Back on the buses and back to the airport, where a big send-off is usually provided, and this is one of the cases back at the Baltimore airport where we have dancing girls and everything else, and to entertain us before getting on the plane, and a bunch of the people had to have their pictures taken with us. Another hour and 15-minute flight, and the reception at the Purdue airport. A lot of people, we usually get back in there about 8:30 at night. So all of this takes place in one day, remember? Big cheers for each veteran as they come off the plane. There's Don. And you get every time someone would show up in the door of the airplane, there'd be a huge cheer from the crowd. And each veteran receives a copy of the group photo that we took back at Memorials, because we take the picture and we email it back to one of the drugstores back here, and they print up 8x10 prints for everybody. They get a copy of that group photo when they get off the plane. This is one of our World War II female veterans. We've got a few of those, not too many, but maybe about 6 or 7 of those in the course of the 3 years. Plus a lot of hugs and well wishes from the staff and the friends and family. I'll tell you what, you get an idea of what this means to those of us who are involved in this program. This whole thing is nothing but one enormous emotional overload for everybody involved. And I'm going to read you an email we got from somebody that describes this. From a gal named Kathleen Gibson.
Dad,
Your
the microphone.
What about it?
Tap it.
Died.
It
Oh.
died.
So hello, goodbye, goodbye.
You don't have any more batteries.
Well, alrighty. I can read this so you can hear it. I just wanted to share with you, after feeling so bad about Mr. Klein, and this weekend I had to tell you about this. Gene and I went to lunch yesterday, went at lunch time yesterday to a veteran's visitation. His name was Raymond Tetero. He went with Gene last September on the honor flight. He never stopped talking about what a fantastic day it was. Mr. Tetero died Sunday morning. When we got to the funeral home yesterday and walked up to the casket with his wife Mary, we were stunned to find him in his honor flight t-shirt. And the cards that were made by all of the school children were propped up on the lid of the casket. That was another thing. We get in touch with the family members of all these veterans without their knowledge, and tell them to write letters to Grandpa. Write letters to the old man. Anything you want to say. We tell them what it's about. We don't tell them what to say. We tell them to write letters to their grandfather. And people like Mary Kay, who works at one of the elementary schools over to Happy Hollow, she talks to the teachers, and the teachers get the kids in class to write letters to the veterans. We don't tell them what to say, but we tell them what it's all about, and they understand. And some of those letters, I'll tell you what, they break you up. So we had letters from those children propped on the lid of the casket. It just made me proud that he enjoyed that so much, and that his wife told us how she just knew he wanted to leave here in his t-shirt, so he could tell everyone about his most enjoyable day on the trip. You and so many worked so hard to make these trips such a wonderful experience for these veterans. I just wanted to tell you how truly fortunate they are to have you and your organization, and what a profound experience this is for many of them. Now, that's not an unusual email. We get stuff like that all the time. It's an emotional program that we're in, and it's just amazing. These veterans are unable to make a trip like this on their own. We honor them, providing it to them at no cost. The flight, the deluxe bus tour service, the shirts, the meals, and other amenities are provided free to the veterans. We also provide the volunteer guardians who accompany them on the aircraft and at the memorials. They play a significant role on every trip, ensuring that every veteran gets a safe and memorable. And if that guardian can be a member of the family, it makes it so much more special for a family member to experience this with the grandfather and be able to take that home and have a memory for the family to last. So it costs $500, a tax-deductible $500 donation will put a veteran on the plane. And if you want to be a guardian, you have to pony up a tax-deductible contribution of $400 to go on that airplane as a guardian. And we train the guardians, and all of the costs for all of these flights are met by donations. And you consider it costs something in the neighborhood of $60,000 to do one of these. It's all been paid for by donations from everywhere. It's just amazing. And there you are. If anybody has any questions or wants to talk about it, I've got applications here too, by the way. We have had 3 years, and we have honor flight numbers 10, 11, and 12 are already scheduled on the board for this year, and it's amazing. We even got Eikenberry to fill out an application form after 3 years. I pounded it. And so, go ahead, yes.
Do you have any openings for chaperones?
For what?
Do you have any openings for guardians or chaperones on the flight?
We always have openings for guardians and chaperones on flight.
Well,
Yeah. So I can provide you with the application forms, and to get a chance to participate in it. We've got a number of people in this room that have done this. Sally's done this. Mary Kay's done this. Sam's been on the flight. Jeff Love's done this, and they can tell you. And Laura can tell you just how special it is. The opportunity to participate in something like this.
Could I just say that this was just the most incredible experience. Jeff picked me up, took me to the airport, was at my side all day long, and at the end, he took me back to University Place. What an incredible experience that was, and how special it was. Thank you, and thank you, Ted, and all the people who made it possible.
Good job, guys.